Welcome back to Part T with Becky and Kenzie. Today, our topic is all about being an empath. So, we're going to tell you a little bit about the definition of an empath, the different types, and what our experiences are as being empaths. So, empath comes from the word empathy, obviously, which just means the ability to understand the experiences and feelings of other people outside of your own perspective. So, whether you agree with them or not, you understand what they're feeling. So an empath is somebody who's highly aware of their emotions as well as others, and they often take on other people's emotions. And they have a different sense of awareness of the vibe of a room, or just are very sensitive to people's energies or the energy of a situation. So Becky's going to go over the different types of empaths that there are.
Yeah, so I pulled a couple different empaths because when I looked up, I knew there was a bunch, but it was like there's 6 different types of empaths, the 8, the 11, the 17. So hopefully I pulled ones that will resonate most with people. So I'm just going to go through my list. The types of empaths, there is the emotional empath. This is the most common empath. So like Kenzie mentioned, they can absorb others' emotions as their own. They can be sponges with energy. They're susceptible to narcissists and energy vampires, and they feel exhausted around these kinds of people. There's a mantra to protect your energy, and it's very, very simple. It's just return to sender. So whenever you feel that negativity or there's feelings that you're taking on that are making you uncomfortable and you know they're not your own, saying that mantra over and over until you feel the weight lifted. This doesn't harm the source or the person. It just helps to get that energy out of your body. There is a physical empath, which they can pick up physical symptoms of others into their body as their own. They need to be extremely careful that they're not taking on other people's pain. There is a tip for this that you can do some breathing exercises. So any kind of breathing exercise that you do that helps you, this will get the pain out of your body, and you're going to keep doing those breathing exercises until the pain, you're going to breathe. So you're going to breathe out the pain from wherever that you feel that in your body, and breathe that out until it's gone. There's the intuitive empath, who can read people very easily, and they know whether or not they need to do something based on the circumstances. They pick up other people's feelings and what they're thinking, especially negative energy in the room. They're psychically attuned to others with just a look. And I know I've talked about that even as like being a kid. There's a shielding technique that you can do for this. You can picture white or pink light surrounding you and protecting you from negative energy. So that would be like from source or whatever spiritual beliefs you have, from the divine, from above. You want to picture that energy protecting you from negative energy, but this is still going to let in positive energy. So you're not like blocking everything out, just the negative stuff. There's a plant empath, which these people can communicate with plants and use plants' energy to help the plants grow, flourish, and stay alive. Unfortunately, I don't quite have that
I definitely don't
so
have
well.
it at all.
But these
I
people,
always wanted to be one of those plant people because I love nature, but I can't keep anything alive.
I love nature, but succulents and air plants I can't
Yeah.
even keep
I
alive.
always say, like, if plants could, like, scream like babies scream and let me know what they need, I would be able to take care of them. But if they just sit there and don't tell me what they need, I can't help you.
So to harness this power, we can spend time in nature with the plants to allow a mutual energy exchange. You can spend time outdoors in stillness and in quiet to hear the plant's messages for you and to become aware of your surroundings. I've done this before with my experience. I spent a lot of time when I was learning about shamanism. I spent a lot of time with the plants and shamanic journeying to receive their messages. And that was like a completely different emotional healing for me. I didn't think, I was kind of like,
Mm.
like, because like I tend to be a little skeptical with some things. And maybe that's like the empath in me that's like, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
Like it's just like fake stuff. But I was surprised at how it was a really a good emotional healing. Lots of tears, lots of like release, lots of
Yeah.
like feeling lighter. There's an animal empath. They have the ability to feel and communicate with animals, and they can naturally work in the animal field. So, like veterinarians, people who work for animal rescues, and you can to hone this skill. You can talk to the animals. You can volunteer at a local animal shelter, or you can go bird watching. I've done both. I did volunteer at an animal shelter, and that I didn't think, it's not what I thought it was going to be. And the energy, I only did it once, and then I was like, this is too overwhelming and too overstimulating and intense. Like the dogs were like walking me. I was like, I don't, like, please don't give me this like gigantic dog because I
Yeah.
won't be able to like
With
control, like
animals,
walk them.
yeah, I feel like I get so upset like with animals, like whether I'm happy about them or I'm sad about the like whatever's happening to them. Like I just get so over emotional when it comes to animals, like more than people sometimes.
Yeah.
But like I don't
Yeah.
know, I haven't really tried to like tune into like really like listen, like trying to listen to them and their
Plus,
energy and see like
even just them, I mean, their cages, like they were big, but
yeah,
even I get so upset when
yeah.
animals are in cages.
Hmm.
Even if they have all this space, and I'm like, but they can't roam
They're
free.
not
Or
free. Yeah.
my uncle, I watched my uncle's bunny when he was on vacation. I was like, oh, I watched the bunny. And I would literally cry going to work because I'm like, I have to put the bunny back in the cage. And I would take her out and just let her like hop around, and then she would start pooping on the floor. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, you can't do this. Like,
Yeah.
but it was like, and I was like, I
Yeah.
can't have like a pet because
Right.
I love animals,
It's
but I would never leave the house.
Mhm. I know. It's hard. And then I randomly get like animals that come to me. Like if I'm just like walking, like I had a butterfly every day come to me and during the summer, during my walks during quarantine for 2 months straight. Every day, a monarch butterfly followed me on my walk. And
That's
then like
amazing.
cats randomly come to me, like stray or like outdoor cats. But like I'm like about to drive somewhere and there's a cat there just like playing. Like they're not even just like they don't run away. They sit there and they play with me, and I'm just like, I gotta go. Like you gotta
I
get
have
out.
cats chase me, but then I get scared because it's
Yeah.
like, please don't bite me. Or
Mhm.
like, I love animals. I think that comes from being younger. Like
Mhm.
dogs would like come at me.
Yeah.
Cats, I would get like attacked. Like, not
Yeah.
attacked, but like
They
as
would.
a kid, I'm like, they're
Yeah.
attacking me. But
Right.
like, I think they were trying to like come to me to play with me, and I was
Right.
afraid. So I
They can
carried
sense.
that like into being an adult. And
Mhm.
there's it's funny you said about monarchs, because monarchs can be very skittish
Yeah.
around people. Um, so that, but also butterflies, they can be from like a guardian angel or like someone who's passed. That's because
Yeah.
when I was
I think.
pregnant,
Oh, go ahead.
I had there was a butterfly that I would, anytime I leave the house, like in butterfly season,
Mhm.
and it would land on my car. It would flutter around me. It would, I think at one point it was on my car, and I can, with some butterflies, I can, because I'll chase them. I'll be that like person like that's going like this, and it's like, what is she doing? Oh, she's just chasing butterflies. And some of them I'll be able to pick up, and
Mhm.
this one would let me pick them up because I'm like, okay, you need to go back in the garden. I have to leave.
Yeah.
And I talk to the butterflies, and then there's the walking paths here
Mhm.
randomly, and this was with Violet. So I get anytime, like with animals, because some people don't leash their dogs or anything. And I know from being a kid, having those unleashed animals, they would see a little kid and then come to
Yeah,
them.
right.
So I'm very protective, like if there's an unleashed animal, just because I don't know how they're
Right.
going to react. I don't know that animal. Um, there was this cat that just like came out of the woods and was just like running towards us. And I'm like, what's
Okay.
going on? So I stopped because I'm like, okay, let me just stop and see. And then this cat was like just doing circles. And I'm like, okay, like, so I'm like, maybe I'm curious if Violet has that
Yeah, that attraction.
energy
Yeah.
too. Oh, I have one more. So we have the earth empath. They have a very deep connection to the earth. They're sensitive to weather and natural disasters. They can detect the earth's energy signals and changes in that energy. So a good way to, I guess, help with that is connect with nature to restore your energy by meditating outside or earthing, which is walking barefoot outside. I've done that before, but because I'm like afraid of bugs, like I don't like, I get all squealy.
Mhm.
That wasn't so relaxing for me because I was like, where, it's like you try to put bare feet and then you're like, what's touching me? What's crawling? I feel things crawling on me.
That does,
So,
that does get
but on the beach, I could go. So another way is to just, I can walk barefoot in the
I like
sand.
doing yoga outside when it's nice out and like feeling the grounding of, the grass wherever you are. We've even done beach yoga before,
Oh,
which was,
wow.
yeah, really relaxing right by the water. So, and you're grounding, through your
Yeah.
feet there.
I can do that. The earthing, I can do that with my shoes on. That's more like grounding for me than being
Mhm.
barefoot walking
Yeah.
around.
I think I guess the barefoot reasoning is like you're closer to
Well,
the,
yeah, and like there is a purpose for that, but my personality, I'm like, I don't like
yeah, I
this.
don't care.
That's I think the Jersey girl in me, where I'm like not so country, I'm more city, and I'm just
Yeah,
like I feel things.
definitely. So, wow, that's a lot of different types of.
Yeah, and there was a lot more, but I was like, let me pull these
Yeah,
because I
those are
feel
like
like
the
they're
basic.
the most easy to explain. I
Mhm.
definitely feel I'm definitely an emotional empath, a physical one. I can pick up my best friend
Mhm.
when she has anxiety sometimes. I even have text messages with like timestamps where I'm like, are you having anxiety? Or I'll describe how I'm feeling and she's like, oh my God, I'm feeling the same way. Or even I knew she was pregnant with her second child. I told her, I was like, are you pregnant? And she's like,
I don't know.
how did you know that? Like, she never got a chance to tell me. Like, I freaked her out with that. And I can feel like if I'm in a room and there's people who are anxious or,
Mhm.
um, I can kind of feel that negative energy, and I don't. So that those breathing exercises, I've had to do that.
Yeah, I definitely would identify probably with the emotional and the intuitive empath,
Yeah,
and then a little bit as an animal empath, just because I feel like they're drawn to me. I'm not necessarily like drawn to that. Well, I
yeah.
am. I love all animals, but
I think, yeah, I definitely have
definitely the.
intuitive and the earth, the intuitive, because I've had that since I was a kid. Like
Yeah.
I receive messages, and sometimes I can second guess those messages because I'm like, am I
That's
being
been like.
paranoid, or like is this just like in my head, or is this like for real?
That's what's been like kind of hard for me, like starting to like try to tune into my intuition and stuff. I doubt it a lot because I don't know whether it is my intuition or not. And people say like, "Oh, well, you wouldn't doubt your intuition. That's how you know it's your intuition." But it's like I've haven't been allowed the space in the past to trust my intuition before. So now that I have my own self back and I can make my own, decisions on what I want to do and not feel like I have like this cloud over me from whether it was like past relationships or just like negative people in my life. So now that those things are cleared out and I'm trying to tune in more, it's hard to know because I've doubted it for so long and haven't gone with my gut instinct that I have to like come back to that and try to figure out, okay, what is my gut instinct feel like? Because sometimes it can feel like anxiety when some it feels
Yeah.
like fear, but it's really your intuition. So then I'm like, well, which one is it? Like, what do I go with? So
Yeah.
that's been kind of tough for me, just like doubting my gut feeling. But I guess the solution to that might be just make a decision. Like I have a hard time like just picking one thought or over the other or a decision. So in order to be able to trust my decisions, I just have to make a decision, whether it's right or wrong. And then you can start to figure out, okay, well, I can trust these type of decisions and I can't trust these type of decisions. But I have to actually make the decision. That's the problem. It's like I can't just I'm so indecisive.
I find that in my businesses,
Hmm.
it takes me a while to make a decision because I'm thinking and overthinking and
Yeah.
like trying to like think of all the little like analysis
Right.
things that I do, like
Yeah.
okay, what's like the return on this, or what's
Hmm.
the negative thing about that, or
Right.
so it'll take me a while, and
Yeah.
it's exhausting because I'm like, oh, can I just make a decision? But then I'm like, but no, these are my businesses. I want to make sure that it's like
Right. The right
in
one.
alignment with my businesses, with myself, with my ethics and values
That's
and all
where
that.
like that's where like me and my mom work well together in our cookie business is because like I am like the creative, I make the recipes and like I can come up with like great ideas, but like when it comes down to like choosing like a decision of what to do, I'm like, my which one? And she's like, that one, go. And I'm like, all right. So like she makes it easy on me for that business, but when it comes to like myself, I just can't make, even if it's a decision of where I want to sit in a restaurant, I'm just like, I don't know.
I always have to
I
have
don't know.
my back to the wall. That's like a survive. That's like a like
Survive.
being aware of your
Yeah,
surroundings. It's
yeah.
like because I'm thinking like if somebody storms in here, I need to make sure I see them. Like
Right,
you
yeah.
know,
I tend
and
to do that too, like
or I have to
unconsciously.
sit on the
I
end.
like to sit and view the whole room. I don't like to be
Hmm.
behind, have the whole room behind
Yeah,
me. Yeah,
I have to sit on the end. So like
right.
if it's a booth, I
Mhm.
get claustrophobic, and I always, if we're with
Yeah,
people, I'll have my husband. I'm like, can you sit on the inside, please? Like,
right.
because it's like I'm like, if I need to escape, I'm just gonna run out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I wanted to mention something too about, I don't know, I guess this has to do with being an empath. So because we are like so keenly aware of other people's emotions and possibly what they need from us or from, in terms of healing or what their pain points are. Do you notice that a lot of people come to you for advice like unsolicitedly? Like they're just like
So
just pouring out their heart to you and you're just like, whoa, like I just met you. Like
yeah,
but they
this
feel
happened.
this connection to you. They feel your energy and they just want to like tell you everything. And you're just like, well, now what do I do with this? How can I help you? And sometimes it's a good conversation and it's a healing conversation, but other times they're just like throwing it all at you and you're just like, whoa, whoa, where did this come from?
I've even had. I definitely get that, and I get annoyed. Again, this is the Jersey girl in me. It's like, why are you talking to me? Don't talk to me. Like, it's like a thing where it's like, if I'm out, especially like on a walk, usually I'll tend to talk. Like, if I see someone with like a dog, or like if I see an animal or like little kid, then I'm like, oh. But if it's just like a regular person with like no animal, no child, I'm like, don't look at me, don't talk to me. Like, um, and have you ever had, I've had an aura chakra reading where you put your hand on this thing and it like reads you, and it does tell you like how, I
Big
forget what
your
it's
aura is?
actually called, but like it almost looks like a bullseye with the rings, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
your aura.
Right.
When
How
I
far it
first had it
extends.
done, I was in like a really negative, like toxic, like work environment. I
Mm-hmm.
had some health issues. So I was only like 30 or 40. The second time, like a year or two later, after I had pneumonia and sepsis and I was healing from that, and I did that, my aura was like at 90. It was like, so I was like, and that's like, and at that time, I was like, why are all these people coming to me? So,
Right, they're
and I
drawn
still
to you.
have that, even in the grocery store where,
Yeah.
and now it's not so much because like with the pandemic, but
Right.
before all that, I'm like, like I would try to literally dress. When I go to the grocery store, I look like a hobo. Like I'm in like garbage clothes, like just baggy. Like I don't want to be seen.
Yeah.
Don't look at me. Don't talk to me. I want to just basically camouflage myself into the shopping cart and into this store that so you don't see me. I can go in. And there's been times where I've actually had anxiety in the grocery store before the pandemic. And I think it was just like there were certain people that like workers where I would like walk past them and I would get like sick. Like
Mhm.
I would
You
just
feel
feel
their
like
aura. Mhm.
where I would have a hard time breathing and I would have to like I would get lightheaded and then when I get lightheaded I'm like I start to panic because it's like, oh my gosh, why
Right,
do I
like,
feel lightheaded? Am I gonna pass out?
mhm.
And then I have to go back to those to try to remember to tell myself to
Right,
breathe that out. In those moments, it's like I can tell you, oh, just breathe it out, or
right.
envision this white and pink light. But in the moment, you're like, oh my god, what do I do? I can't get out of this.
So interesting because I think people feel at peace in our presence, but it's hard for us
Oh,
to
we're freaking out.
because yeah, we're taking on those emotions. So I hear that a lot. People always tell me like, "Oh, you're so calming. Like you have such a calming voice and a calming presence, and like I just want to be around you." And it's like, thank you, but I also need time to myself. Like,
Yeah,
um,
and I'm gonna go take a nap now for
yeah,
3 days because the life has just been sucked out of
that's
me.
yeah, that's like a good segue into kind of like when you're not protecting yourself as an empath and what that can look like on the outside. So when you are an empath and you're not honing those skills in the right way and that power in the right way, you are people pleasing. You're not, speaking your boundaries. You put other people's needs before your own, and you kind of forget about taking care of yourself because you are that empathetic person and you want to be, that beacon for somebody. But a lot of times when you're doing those things, you're not supporting what the true power of being an empath can do for you. So when you're not protecting yourself, that's what it can turn into. So in order to get back into yourself, you have to spend that time alone, recharge, cleanse yourself, do those things that allow you to have that energy to be able to help the next person if that's what you want to do. So not protecting yourself as an empath can actually be a detriment to your healing.
Yeah, I definitely, when I go out, I'm usually like loaded up with crystals. Like I have like my arm, like all my bracelets, my necklace. And I would even have like some people, I've had people like, oh, I like your crystal. Like, and they're like, and I'm like,
Don't touch it.
like, please don't touch me. Like, where I'm like, you can look, don't touch,
Yeah,
I've had that. And then also, I guess there's like the complementary side. There's another type of person that can also go along with an empath, and I know we've talked about this because I am one. They're called it's a highly sensitive person, or an HSP. Um, this is not a disorder or a condition, but it's actually a scientific personality trait. Um, this is often described, and I have been called this ever since I was a kid and even being an adult. This can be someone who's too sensitive, and we feel things much stronger than others. We can get overwhelmed by too much stimulation. We're often confused with introverts because of our need to spend time alone. But introverts, extroverts, and ambiverts can all be HSPs. Um, I'll do some pros and cons and then I'll tell you, well, I guess I can laugh at it now. I'll tell you a little quick, funny story. But the pros, they're empathetic, artistic, creative, intuitive, and highly aware of others' needs. The cons, they get overwhelmed by loud, crowded, or busy places, and they're exhausted and burnt out from absorbing or sensing others' emotions. Um, the second year, I think it was the second year, that we went to the Young Living convention. I was so excited because the first year we didn't get a chance to do it because it sold out, but to go to the lavender farm.
Right.
And I was so excited because I was like, I've seen pictures. This looks like a painting. I can't
Mhm.
wait to be in that much nature and just be surrounded by like the lavender and the mountains. And we get there. We took we decided to take the bus with like people, just figuring it would be easier to not have to deal with parking and stuff. So okay, so I'm on this bus like full of people and I'm just trying to um get into my own like
Mhm.
meditative calming state. We get there, we go out of the bus, and then I think there was like this room. I don't know if it was like a store. I don't know, because it was so much overstimulation for me that I immediately was like, I'm overwhelmed. I need to I'm like disoriented because there's a lot going on. We end up My husband and I get separated somehow trying to get onto this line because people are like,
Mhm.
just it's like calm down. Like you're all gonna get on like to wherever we're going.
Mhm.
So I'm ahead, he's like a couple people behind. And there were so many people in there and it was kind of dark and it was too much energy. There was too much energy. Someone next to me said something to me and I just started to get upset
Mhm.
and I had to leave. I went off the line and I said to my husband, I said, I can't be in this room. I can't be here. And I'm literally running into the furthest corner of this farm, like away, because I went outside and I'm like, there's so many people here. Why are there so many people? I want to just be away from people. Like it was
Needed
so
your own
much
space.
that, and the tears are just like flowing. And I'm doing like my like squeal cry, like when I'm really upset. And I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
where I'm like trying to get everything out. And it's like my husband's trying not to laugh because he's like, I know she's upset. And then like I'll see him smirk and then I'll like try not to laugh because I know he's trying to like make me like feel better. And I end up going to like the furthest corner of this farm, like a wet, like it was like in the dirt, like in the like somewhere, like where there was like no people. And I was just like, okay, I just need to like calm down. And then it was actually really pretty. Like the mountains were behind me. And Matt's like, let me take a picture of you. And I'm like, I don't want to take my picture right now. But it's like, but just look at how pretty. Like turn around, look where you are. And
Mhm.
then I was like,
Okay.
oh, like, and then I'm just like, and I have that photo somewhere, but
Awesome. I love that story. I mean,
that
I
was
love that you felt overwhelmed, but that's a great
No, I can laugh at
story.
it now, but
Yeah.
in that moment, it was scary because I felt
Yeah.
claustrophobic. And I think
Mhm.
that's also being
Yeah.
a Gemini. I'm an air sign. I
Yeah.
need a
Born in
lot
the
of
tree.
air. If
Mhm.
I feel like suffocated or, with
Yeah.
people like, those needy friends or a place or, I
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
have like my own. And I wonder if that's because like my aura is so big
A
that
lot
I
bigger.
need
That
space. Like
space.
I don't like close talkers. Like I've been to networking things and I don't know if you've been to networking things or those people are like,
Yeah.
hey, and I'm like, whoa.
It up.
And I will be not so
Yeah. Well, now it's probably acceptable to be like 6 feet back up. Like, but yeah, I definitely kind of identify. I don't know if I think I definitely am a highly sensitive person. What am I saying? I know I am because like no matter what it is, if I'm like angry and having an argument, I cry. If I'm happy, I cry. Like if I'm like overwhelmed, I cry. If I don't know what I'm feeling, I cry. Like I don't know what it is, but like I just get this overwhelming sensation. No matter what emotion is overwhelming, it leads to like this release of crying, no matter what I'm
Do
feeling.
you cry over commercials, certain
Oh
commercials?
yeah, 100%. And even if someone's just telling me a story and
Yeah.
it's about their life and they're not even upset about it, I'm the one like
Yeah.
crying. I'm like, you're not
God,
sad about this. And I'm
yeah.
just
Or
like,
God forbid, like the last video we did, like with Jose and Steven.
yeah,
And Jose is telling like his story, and I'm
yeah,
like, oh God. And I'm like, I need to literally ugly cry right now. And I
yeah,
had to hold that because I
mhm,
was like envisioning or like it's like I'm putting myself in
in
his
their
and I could
shoes.
I
Yeah.
resonated a lot with what he said because I had experienced a lot of what, a different medical reason, but like
Same
those feelings.
feelings of, yeah.
So somebody, or if someone's like telling me their story, or they're telling me something and they start crying, I'm crying. Like if someone else is crying, I'm crying with them.
100%, yeah. It's so interesting because as a kid, I always thought I had to be the strong one, and I would never show that I was upset or crying. Like as a kid, I always felt, I think it goes back to like talking about like the root cause of your beliefs or whatever. I remember being so young. I think I was in maybe fifth grade. I don't know, maybe younger. I was in elementary school, and my great grandmother had passed away. And my mom that morning, I didn't know she passed away yet, but that morning my mom didn't go to work, and I heard her crying in the basement, but she didn't want to show me that she was crying. So she like, wiped her tears, said goodbye, like have a good day, whatever. But I knew like something was wrong. So I got to school and I told my best friend, I'm like, hey, I think my grandma passed away. And no one told me anything. And I had just told my best friend, and I just started crying because I'm like, I really believed that that's what happened. And when I got home from school, like, long behold, they told me that she had passed away. But it was just like, from that moment, I felt like I had to be strong because my mom showed me that she couldn't cry in front of me. So I thought that, like, you have to be strong for everyone else. So for the longest time, when anything upset me, I wouldn't cry like in front of anyone. And I would wait until I got home or was by myself to like really let it out. But now I'm just like, I cry for everything because I need to let it out in that moment. I can't hold it in anymore. Whereas as a kid, I would hold it in so much, even though I wanted to cry so bad, like I felt like I had to be that strong person, like my mom was, not showing her her emotions. And even still, like she doesn't really show when she's upset or in pain, and doesn't ask for help when she needs it because she wants to be the strong person. But and she's amazing at being that rock for us, and that's why we have the family structure we do because of her. But I just want to tell her sometimes, like, it's okay to like
Yeah.
cry in front of us or ask for help or be upset or be in pain, and show that it's okay. But that's where I got that belief from, that I had to be the strong one too.
Yeah, I had, when my grandpa passed away, it was the first time I ever saw my grandma cry. And my mom said the same thing. She said, that's the first time I
Yeah,
saw my mom cry. And, we're all adults now. And
yeah,
I don't, when my dad passed away, I don't remember. I remember my mom, she did break down afterwards. I did see that.
yeah.
But it was more so because they owned a business. And now it's like, okay, now she's working 7 days a week with two kids. And at the time
Mhm.
her brother was like in elementary school, I was in high
Yeah,
school. Um, so that's a lot to take
yeah,
on. But the same thing, when I lived in Jersey, I never cried, never showed emotion. I moved to New York and I become a basket case. Like,
yeah, yeah,
my head is, that's why I started going to therapy, because I didn't
yeah.
know how to cope. I didn't
Right.
know how to express um,
Yeah.
those emotions, like
Hmm.
besides getting angry, or
Right. I was gonna
I was
say mine
angry a lot.
often, yeah, mine often translated into anger before anything. And then that's really why I started going to therapy, because I'm like, why am I so angry like
Yeah.
all the time? And it wasn't anger that I was really feeling. It was like that deep emotional pain that I was feeling, but I
Yeah.
didn't know that it was coming out as anger.
Oh, and going back to what you said about the indecisiveness, I just
Hmm.
remembered. So in Chinese medicine, the gallbladder, because I
Hmm.
had this when I first started going for acupuncture. I think it's the gallbladder is attached to indecisiveness. So like
Hmm.
she had worked on my liver and my gallbladder and my spleen.
Yeah.
Or is it the spleen?
That kind of makes sense, because isn't it
It's
like your
either,
solar plexus
yeah,
chakra
it's
is
in
for
that, I don't know, or the
indecisiveness?
spleen. It's either the spleen or the gallbladder. I can't remember now.
Mm.
Um, with the indecisiveness, but you can look that up if you
Yeah.
Google like Chinese medicine or traditional Chinese medicine,
Hmm.
indecisiveness, or it's I don't know if that's like a stagnation, like stagnant chi, the stagnant chi energy
Right.
for that. I think that's what that is. But
Hmm.
you can you can move that energy, and then
Right. Yeah.
but which I'm not as indecisive as I used to be, but
Hmm.
something. I mean, I'm not saying like, oh, I'm never indecisive, like,
Right.
but just to, like, if you notice it, like, a
No,
lot,
I'm, like,
like,
more than the normal human.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, so
simple
then
things
that
I
could
can't
be
even decide on, like yeah.
Kenzie, what do you want to eat?
Yeah, oh my god, don't ask me that ever. Please, don't ask me where you wanna eat ever. Just pick a place and we'll go. I'm like it's so funny because people usually, like I think it's easier for me to be like, "Oh, whatever you want," but they
Yeah.
hate that because 'cause they're like,
I'm
"No,
like,
I wanna
"Oh."
know, like, what you wanna eat," and I'm just like, "But it's whatever, I'm good with anything," and
Do
people
you
hate that
think
answer.
do you think that's, like, a people-pleasing thing? Like, or just
It might be a
indecisive
root of
thinking?
that. I don't know. Sometimes I truly don't know what I want.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't know. Like, I want both things, and so, like,
Well,
whichever one.
I should say when we order food, I'm like, "I need choices," and I figured
Yeah.
it out. Did you ever watch, Gilmore Girls?
I've seen it, but not, like,
Okay,
regularly.
so, like, I grew up, like, watching that, and then, like,
Yeah.
now it came to Netflix, so I'm like, "Oh my god, Gilmore Girls,"
Mhm.
and I'm watching this, and I'm like, "These women brainwashed me into ordering," because they would order food, like, 2 people,
Yeah.
like, they'd order whether it's, like, Chinese food or, like,
Mhm.
pizza, and they're like, "We need garlic bread, and we need this, like, appetizers, and they're, like,
All
meals,"
the choices.
and they're ordering, like, all these, like, different choices, and I'm like, "Oh my god, this is how I
That's
order
so
food because 'cause
funny.
I'm like, I need little this, little that," like,
I feel that's like when I can't decide, I just order everything that I'm craving, and then I just
even
take it
last
home and
night,
have leftovers.
we ordered takeout last night, and I ordered 2 things. My husband's like, "Why do you always order 2 things?" I'm like, "'Cause I need choices."
It's so true. Or
Or
like
I'm like,
if you're gonna order something, I'm gonna have some of what you're ordering too. So
yeah.
I
So
also wanted to go
oh,
ahead, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead.
No, I wanted to I found a quote. It kind of goes back to like the highly sensitive person and like how we were saying like we thought we had to be strong and not cry, but really crying doesn't mean you're weak is what the point I wanted to make. Like just having these extra emotions or these overwhelming emotions and being that sensitive person and being vulnerable as an empath is not a bad thing. Like so this quote says your strength is in your ability to feel and be vulnerable and to feel emotions so deeply. So, feeling those emotions is not a weakness, it is a strength to be able to feel all the great things really, really heavily and all the bad things really heavily is still a blessing either way. So that really helped me to kind of feel better about how my emotions come out and express themselves because it's like, no, you're strong for that. You're not weak for, being vulnerable and showing that you have emotion and that you care and that you're empathetic. So that really helped me get through, sometimes where people are like, oh, you're too sensitive, you're so emotional. And it's like, yeah, but
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
I've had that, and at, like, my lowest points where hearing those words were so damaging at the
Yeah.
time, but
Yeah.
because of those people, because it was coming from a really bad place, like, they weren't just saying it because they cared, they were saying
Yeah.
it because they were trying to hurt me,
Meaning, yeah.
and we'll get into that, like, this fakeness, like, at the end
Mhm.
of this, we'll talk about that, because of them, I worked even harder on myself.
Yeah.
So there are times where I feel so like sensitive and
Mhm.
like extra sensitive, and I will like retreat. I will like take that time and then embracing being an empath, embracing being a highly sensitive person, so that
Yeah.
when I'm standing, I am rooted to the earth. So that
Right.
if someone tries to say something to me now to try to hurt me, I'll
Mhm.
probably curse them out. Like,
Yeah.
whereas
Yeah.
before I would be afraid, like, oh, like this
Yeah.
little mouse. And
Mhm.
now I'm like,
You're strong.
when Violet was in my belly, I called her a little wolf. So
Oh,
like I'm that wolf or I'm that
yeah.
like lion where I will like bite you back, like if
Right.
so,
Yeah.
and that's a form of like using your voice and standing up for yourself, using those boundaries,
Right.
telling people. It depends on the situation. There have been times where I ghost the person,
Mhm.
um, because I just don't even. It's too much negative energy, and it's like a narcissistic kind of.
Right.
And we'll get into like empaths and narcissists like can go hand in hand. The traits can be mirroring. Um, there's the I took a spin on this, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Um, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I lost my train of thought.
It's okay. When someone came up to you, you tend to be
Yeah,
instead.
so
Yeah.
now, so honing those skills and doing the self-care work and becoming a stronger person,
Mhm.
learning how to cope, dealing with past traumas, like bringing all that stuff, the stuff up to the surface to get it up and out, like how I said, like
Mhm.
doing these exercises or the return to sender or the breathing exercises, because you
Mhm.
want it out of you so that, you can become the best version of yourself,
Yeah.
so that now, that saying, like, be like a tree, so if someone says something to me, it's like I'm just swaying like in the wind,
Right.
um,
It
and
doesn't
I
affect
may
you too much.
drop a branch on their head depending. you know um but also, okay, so we talked, so the kids as empaths, this is something I wanted to bring up. It's important to kids, automatically, they're very intuitive, they're very in tune, because they don't have
Not brainwashed by
they're not
tradition.
brainwashed yet, they're not labeled, they're not, society hasn't gotten them yet to tell them who they are.
Right.
So it's important if your kids, and I can't wait to do this with Violet. I want her, and I don't want to like push my beliefs on her or push anything on her. I want to observe her,
Mhm.
and I want her to tell me what she sees, what she feels,
Mhm.
um, you know, within herself and her surroundings. And I have, this had come up actually just yesterday. I have a friend who, a lot of kids are doing the virtual learning, and she's in kindergarten, so this would have been her first year in school, but she's doing virtual school. And my friend had said to me that her daughter said that she thinks that the teacher is playing favorites and that she doesn't like her because she doesn't call on her.
Mhm.
So what she started doing, because they have the cameras, she started
Mhm.
turning her camera off. And she said, Mommy, when I turn my camera off, then the teacher calls on me. So that's how I get the teacher to call on me. So
Mhm.
she's very smart. Like, she's
Yeah.
like, some kids are turning their cameras off just because, like it's like, they don't want to like listen. But
Right. Right.
she's like very smart, where she's
Tactic.
doing it so that she can be called on. And my friend was like, I don't know, what should I do? I don't know what to do. And I said, you need to hone and harness those skills. She has these intuitive skills. She has these empath skills. She
And
has
she's
special skills that a lot of kids lose because their parents are like, either blow it off, or oh, you're being ridiculous, or you're overthinking, you're too sensitive, you're too this, you're too that.
right.
So I said, you can say to her, that's very observant of you, I'm very proud of you for recognizing that. that's
Yeah.
that's very good. And say, you'll talk. And I said to her, you need to talk to this teacher, because I have had issues in school. I know we had talked about that in our video,
Mhm.
where even some teachers like would pick on me, and I was that kid in high school that I would stand up for myself, get kicked out of classes because I could feel. And that, looking back now, that could be like my intuition, like
Mhm.
hearing, feeling and hearing those messages, and reading the room, reading that energy, where it's like, something is off. And I even had that when I was in kindergarten with a gym teacher back in, like, where I didn't like how he would pick us up, or like, I don't want to say he would, this sounds, I don't want to even say this, but like, he would like touch us, but not touch, like just like pick us up. I don't know how to like word that.
Mhm.
And I didn't like that as like a 5-year-old. I didn't like being picked up and thrown by like some man that I didn't know, or like, I thought at the time that that was inappropriate. And I remember my parents going to talk. I remember my parents and me
Mhm.
talking with the principal, and the principal was so nice, and just wanted to make sure like that I would feel comfortable. And
Mhm.
I don't remember the outcome, because I
But you
was
just
only 5 years old, but
yeah.
I just remember like bits and pieces, like
Mhm.
my parents like stood up for me and I said to her, you need to have her, and that was from the video that we did with Jay and Katie with the
Mhm.
boundaries. I learned that from Jay when he said, your kids are watching you and have them witness how
Mhm.
you handle situations.
Yeah.
So like, especially when it comes to sticking up for them. And I said, like, make sure she's around. Like, she doesn't have to sit and listen to the conversation, but she
Mhm.
will hear you if
Mhm.
she's near you.
Right.
Make sure that
He observes
she's
that
hearing
situation.
you saying to the teacher, like, okay, this is how my child feels.
Mhm.
How are we going to fix this? And I said to her, I said, don't ask yes or no questions. I'm really good at this now when I'm trying to hold somebody accountable, or if I need answers, it's how do we fix this? How are you going to help me? What are we going to do to change this?
Mhm.
You know, like to
Instead of
get
saying
them.
instead of saying, like, "Are you gonna change this?" They could say,
Yeah,
"Yes."
or are you favoring the kids? You know, like they're gonna say, no, I'm not favoring the kids. It's how, what, you know, those kinds of questions. But definitely I said that, you know, with kids, it's important
Yeah.
to honor their, I have another friend who, which I don't know if, you know, this would probably freak me out if Violet did this because we have a very old house, but I have another friend whose child was like, there's a ghost in the corner in my room, or, you know, at night or something. Like, if she said that, I'd be like, I'm
Mhm.
not sleeping, like, at night now, you know, something where still, but still kind of
Mhm.
don't dismiss that.
Yeah.
Because it could be because kids do have
They
that kind
say,
of.
like, kids and animals are more susceptible to seeing spirit and, like,
Mhm.
feeling energy as well, like, along with their intuition and being an empath, like, they also can see things that we don't see because they're tuned into it.
One
So,
of when Violet was probably,
like, if you see them
really,
staring, like, into a corner or something, a lot of times they are
yeah,
actually looking at, like, an
she
angel or something, you know?
my mom had her outside and she's maybe like 6 months or younger. And, you know, just it was like a nice day. We were outside and she was waving. Like there was nobody there. Like it, she just started waving. And my mom was like, she's waving to the angels or something like that. And then just the other night, we were in the dining room eating dinner. And she just had this different, I can tell when she's looking at something,
Right.
whether it's there or not, and the way she was acting, and then she started giggling, and she's looking, and in the corner over here, you guys can't see, but I have on the wall, there's an angel that I have that my grandma gave me. And I looked, I was like, what is she doing? Like, is she just playing? Or and she was just giggling, kind of like looking like. So I'm excited for when she gets older, just to see.
It expresses
Try not to be like, what do you see? What do
yeah,
you know? Like, try not to like
yeah.
influence her into thinking. Like, I want her to naturally um
Oh, yeah.
have that. But I think even when I had looked up the highly sensitive person, they even said like babies, when they're born, like fresh out the womb, HSPs, they can tell that that trait, they're more sensitive to light, more sensitive to sound, they're reacting very quickly.
Mhm.
Um, and and I was like thinking back, but I don't even remember. I'm like, did Violet have that one? But because they took her to the NICU, like there was no time for me to, and I wasn't even thinking, like, I
Yeah,
was just
you're
like,
not
oh
aware.
my God, what just happened? Like, um, but I thought that that was interesting, like on
Yeah,
a science part of it.
definitely. Yeah, kids are super in tune, and sometimes the things they say are just like, wow, like we really can learn from kids. Like, and we have to not be like, society has the tendency to be like, well, I'm the adult, so I'm smarter. It's like, no,
Yeah,
no
yeah,
one's smarter or not than the other. It's just like you can learn from everyone no matter what age they're at. So,
yeah,
to that is really important, especially as an empath.
yeah. All right. So before we close out, let's go into those
The juicy
fake
part.
empaths.
Yeah.
I think I'm more excited to talk about this because even more important to talk about fake empaths and fake HSPs.
Yeah.
So the way to tell whether someone's truly an empath and a highly sensitive person. So someone who really is, they won't. I mean, I know we've talked about this where I'm like, I'm an empath, but it's not like, oh, I'm an empath. Like it's I'm an empath, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So the fake ones, they only want attention. So they're gonna point out every negative thing about you. So like us as empaths, I'm not gonna be like, oh, well, you're this, this, and this. Or
Even though
I'll
we
say
can
to
sense
some
that
people,
energy. Yeah, we're
I'll
not gonna.
say to some people, like, are you having anxiety? And
Yeah,
they'll be like, yeah. Or like I had a friend who every time we would go to like one of his parties, and then the next day I'm like, were you having anxiety? And he was like, yeah, you know, or I won't say you're having anxiety. So they're instead of asking you the questions, they're like, no, you're having anxiety or you're feeling this way.
they're
Um,
projecting it
and
onto.
that's a fake empath. And they're going to tell you these things because they're going to tell you how you feel because they're going to try to manipulate you.
Mhm.
Fake empaths are narcissists in disguise. So, a way to protect yourself, you know, you have to protect your energy from narcissists. And 9 times out of 10, when it comes to a narcissist, I ghost them. So, like, I won't use my voice, like, with something like that, where it's just there's a lot of wasted energy. You're not going to be able to get through to these people because of that. They lack empathy, they lack
Right.
these human emotions. So they're not going to hear you.
Mhm.
um, on the flip side, so we talked about that. So going back to I guess we talked about this, that you can have multiple traits. um, when it comes to the types of empaths, like Kenzie and I have multiple traits. You can be more than one. The important commonality of being an empath is to make sure you aren't absorbing all the negative energy from outside sources, whether that's people, places, or things, which we didn't even get into. Like, I would go into antique shops and, like, some stuff, certain things I'll buy like secondhand,
Mhm.
if I really like it or if it looks like antique-ish. Um, like this table behind me was actually from Habitat for Humanity, the restore.
Mhm.
And when I flipped it over, it was actually from 1956. So this was actually a handmade table, which I didn't know at the time. I was just drawn to this table and I was like,
Mhm.
this is the table. I want this table. And when they flipped it over, it had the chalk mark of the date of completion. Um, and I felt good energy from that, but I still wiped it down. I still saged it, just like, just in case, you know, clean it, sage it. You want to ground yourself as much as possible as being an empath because we are absorbing so much energy. We need to make sure we're grounding and rooting ourselves back to ourselves.
Mhm.
Um, do that self care work, spend time alone to recharge your own energy. And anyone, this is really important because anyone has the ability to become an empath.
Mhm.
So this is not like if you weren't born with it or if you didn't have this when you were a little kid. It's okay if you're coming into your own self as an adult. You can become an empath. Anybody has the ability to have empathy.
Yeah.
It's we have to open our hearts, we have to heal our pain, our traumas, heal our pain, um, to then
And
expand our hearts.
yeah, and I noticed too when you don't do those things as an empath, you don't ground yourself and you don't take care of yourself and you're just taking care of everyone else. Like I noticed for me, I get really like snappy and out of character. Like I'm not myself when I'm not protecting my energy. And
Mhm.
because I'm that highly sensitive, energy absorber, it's hard to sometimes remember. Like the only time sometimes if I go like through a really busy week and I forget to, do my yoga practice or whatever it is that I'm doing to ground myself, I notice it right away when I start to get snappy with people that I love or that like they didn't do anything wrong, but yet I'm mad at them. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
well, let me like come back into myself. I haven't taken time to myself this week. This is why, I feel this way. Let me just take a step back. Like, sorry for doing
I
that.
think
But
I
yeah,
think
it's
empaths
definitely important.
I think empaths, we were made for pandemics and quarantine because I've been enjoying. I think I'm more
I have
nervous
too.
now. Like, how am I going to like
Mm.
act in society? How am I going to be a person when
When things
like
snap
the
and
massive amounts of people
yeah, and well,
like
that's gonna be
start
even
coming
crazier
outside?
because now that everyone's been cooped up, even more people when it is time to go back out into the world, like
That's
it's
going to be intense energy.
well, yeah, that's gonna be a big shift
Yeah.
for us too. And something that randomly popped in my head that I wanted to say before about when we said like how we kind of cry over everything now because we're allowing it to come through. I still find it hard to not say sorry for crying like over things like that. Like I'll just start crying about something and I'm like, I'm sorry, but it's like, why am I sorry? Like I'm allowed to feel this, but I it's still hard for me to be like to not say sorry for getting upset about things because I'm so conditioned from society to be like, oh, you're too sensitive, hone that down, tone that down. But it's like, no, I can express myself. I'm allowed to cry if I feel
I
happy,
wrote a
sad,
blog
angry.
post about
Yeah,
this.
stop being sorry.
I'm
I
gonna have
know.
to do the 30-day, I think, with my best friend because I taught her
Yeah,
how to not say sorry.
right.
It was like a 30-day, like
Yeah.
every day,
Notice
30-day.
it. Like I'm good with like little things. Like I stop saying sorry for like stupid little things, but when I cry is when I notice I still am doing it because like I just
So
feel like I'm not supposed to be, showing emotion because for so long I've been told to, not show it.
one of the things that I did, this is when I started going to therapy, like, and I had some like family issues or like family
Mhm.
fights because I was feeling a certain type of way, and the family member was like kind of like blowing that off
Mhm.
or trying to say like you need to apologize to me. And I remember saying, I
Yeah.
will never apologize for how I feel.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling a certain type of way, I will never be sorry. I'm
Yeah.
feeling this way for a reason.
Mhm.
I will deal with it. So that, and even just, I could tell,
Yeah.
like, I just got like really like
That's awesome.
assertive.
Yeah,
Where I was like,
because, like, that's something too, like, when it comes to apologizing, like, yes, say sorry if you did something wrong and you hurt somebody, but don't be sorry for how you felt about it,
mhm.
you know?
Yeah, like if I hurt someone's feelings, I will always apologize. But going back to like those narcissists, because I have had narcissists try to um try to make me feel even worse for feeling or try to like make me feel
Yeah,
like that gaslighting where it's like I'm
yeah,
feeling a certain way, but now I'm getting disoriented because should I
mhm,
be feeling this way? So to
yeah,
them, I will say, and it's like if they're pissed off because I expressed myself, I said how I was feeling. I didn't say like you're making me feel like this way. So I'm feeling this way. Um, and I'll say to them, I'm sorry you took it that way, or I'm sorry you feel that way,
right,
but this is how I feel. You know, this, I'm expressing how I feel. This has nothing to do with you. I was doing this for myself.
mhm,
Um, but like if I hurt someone's feelings, which I don't intentionally try to do, because sometimes I will, like being that direct or being that
mhm,
blunt sometimes, I catch myself and I'm like, oh my God, I'm really sorry. Like, did I just sound like an asshole? Like, like, did I just say something
can
that,
be very blunt and, like, to the
yeah,
well, I don't know if
and
that's like a Sagittarius thing for me because like I'm just get right to the point, like down to business right away. Like a lot of times, like people will say to me, like when I walk into a room, sometimes I don't say hi to people. I just ask them what I need for, like what I came there for, like, and then they're
I'm
like,
the
oh,
same
hi, hello,
way.
how are you? And
I
I'm like,
think
oh
we
yeah,
even
hi, how
text.
are you?
I don't even think we say hello to each other when we
I
text. We're
know
just
we
like,
just start
okay,
talking.
go check this. I just put notes, or like, here, what do you think of this? Like,
I
and
like because you don't question me when I do that because you don't
yeah,
question how I live
or
every
like I don't say hi and I don't say bye. It's just like one ongoing like
yeah thing.
conversation.
I know. But, like, people will get like, people say that about me that they're like, "Wow, you're, like, really down to business." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's just because, like, I wanna get across what I wanna get across. I don't
Yeah.
want all this fluffy shit in the beginning."
Yeah. Or
Like,
like your like your creativity is flowing and it's like you're
yeah,
trying to
I
like
just need
not
to get it
forget
out.
anything and you're
Yeah,
like
exactly.
all right. So I guess before we close out, as always, thank you guys for watching, sharing feedback with us. Make sure to follow, like, and share our videos if you resonate with them. We appreciate all the love. We forgot to mention this because it's also very new to us. We're both on Clubhouse now. And I know we talked about maybe doing some things on Clubhouse once we figure out how it works.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to push buttons on there because I don't know where I'll end up.
Once we figure it out, we'll try to start like a
Yeah.
Clubhouse talk on, just the stuff that we normally do in these videos and just have an open conversation.
So that maybe I can sit on the couch and be comfortable and all disheveled because you guys can't see me. But you can follow me on Clubhouse at Becky Item. And then Kenzie, what's your handle on Clubhouse?
I will put it up because I forgot mine,
Okay.
but probably Kenzie Movers or something to that effect. So I will put up our handles in the video. But thank you guys so much for watching. As always, we will see you next time for our next video. Stay
Bye,
tuned.
guys.